got a song?
I do.
Hello.
Is it Black Betty?
No.
Oh, Black Betty.
Is it Freebird?
No.
You know, Freebird shouldn't be as discounted as it is because it was the Freebird joke.
Uh-huh.
You can just roll whenever. I'm going to do this rant about Freebird. That won't make sense.
I know you won't.
No.
Makes sense, that is.
Look, Leonard Skinner.
They can dance if they want
One of the best products out of Florida. One of the few bands we got.
If you were a real fan, you would just call him Skinner, though. You wouldn't call him.
He's not.
If I'm a real fan, I'd just call him Skinner.
Skinner. There's just the
I'd
D is
shorten it.
silent.
If you're a real fan, you would have died on that plane with the rest of us.
Hey,
That is a very good point.
Hey,
Sorry.
that's
Too
not
soon?
how we should start
25
this
years too soon?
Sweat Equity podcast with our guest Sean Halter. Let him hear you. Hear that voice?
Say his name normal. Like, you can mess up my name.
It's
He
there.
said,
Eric
I know, but he said it kind of weird.
Well, first we got to get the show officially started by giving a Toddy. God almighty. Yeah.
Is that his version of Ric Flair? I don't know what's going on down there.
Nature boy.
Hang on. Gotta get to
So
Styling and
Sean-
profiling.
Sean has some radio.
we try and discourage the hottie toddy.
some
take it.
terrestrial
I hate it so
radio
much.
experience. When you do radio, a lot of the old school guys, they've got their own like call in, right?
Sure.
How they start a show.
Sure, and that's yours.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, listen, you know it's original.
It's
I'll
old,
give you that.
Well, it's not. It's old Mrs. thing. But
That's
yeah.
the worst part about it. He copied something shitty.
Well, yeah. How dare
Copy
you?
something
What?
good.
What? Look,
Woo!
this is a personal attack.
We're sweating.
Yeah.
And we're betting. You're gonna love Sweat Equity.
We're in the sweat
Woo!
lodge. This is the sweat lodge for sure.
It's gotten creepier. Don't let him go there.
You think I don't got Ric Flair on here? You're wrong.
Woo!
Yeah, I
I
think.
got the
We'll do
iTunes
that
going.
callback.
Oh, yeah.
Damn, it's a running theme of the show, really.
I want him to run for politics just because he'd have to break up every sentence in his campaign.
Who?
Ric Flair
Oh.
with a woo.
Yeah.
Look at my watch and shit.
Old school style.
So, Connectivity Holdings
Yes.
is your business.
This is true. Yep.
You know, you popped in, didn't have anything prepared because we prepared a lot on this show.
I didn't know we were shooting. I literally
Yeah.
came over. It was a
That's
a
what's fun
pop
about
in,
it, though. You know.
and I smelled good food downstairs, and then
Yeah.
smelled something up here. Wasn't sure what that was.
It was
but,
weed.
Yeah, it might have been you guys are doing some gardening up here, so it's fine.
Well, you both are on the snowflake, don't eat anything diet.
Just
be
saying.
anorexic, man.
I eat a ton of shit.
and at
Just
my
not
age,
carbohydrates.
I eat anything, and I
You're both keto, right? You're doing
pick
keto.
up like 20 pounds.
You can go now, Law. We'll talk about
Bye-bye.
keto for
I'm gonna go eat
45
some
minutes.
Double stuffed Oreos. See you guys.
I mean,
No, but
all good.
You're
we
in the
talked
minority,
about,
bro.
We talked about it over the summer that you told me that you have way more energy now and feel better as far as because of your diet.
Sure.
When you're going for the tough mudder.
I thought this sweat equity thing was about business. I didn't realize we're literally
I'm just
talking about sweating. I
I'm
wasn't sure
lubing you
where we were
up.
going with this.
the keto diet gives you energy
Yes.
to be better at business.
There you go.
It's all
Look at
about-
that tie.
It lets you work harder. For real. I mean,
I wasn't
it's
sure
legit.
which of you was the straight man, but clearly I know now
We're
which
both
one
queer.
of you is in
Is
this.
that
in this
neither one of us?
relationship.
We're both queer.
Not sure where to go with that. Don't judge. Do not judge.
But time management's a big thing
Yes.
about being an entrepreneur. You
Listen,
know that?
At my age, you just have to be smart. You know, I'm not 25. I can't go out, drink a ton, eat bad food, and then expect me to be productive throughout my entire day. So sure, from time to time, I got to check in with myself. You got to invest in yourself. If I give no other advice from this podcast today, if nobody listens to this other than the three of us at this table and a buddy of mine that I brought over,
Oh, I'll advertise it. Don't worry. It's going to get out there.
you got to invest in yourself. If you're
I
not
like
taking
it.
some time outside of work to invest in yourself, to keep your brain and your body and your mind in the right shape, you won't make it.
So
Yeah.
practically, what does that mean?
I think you got to make sure that you.
What's your schedule? How about that? I kind of like asking people that.
I definitely make sure I mix yoga in at least once a week. Which I'm old, right? So I'm 49. My club age is 42-ish about right now.
Your what? What was that?
My club age.
What he
so
tells
if you,
women at the club.
you go to a club and they're like, "How old are you?" you got a club age.
Oh, okay.
Right?
I've never heard that term.
Well, you're still youngish enough. Maybe you don't have one. But
Yeah.
Also have not been to the club
That's
in
a good point.
number
Yeah,
of years.
based on what I know about his social scene,
Also,
you
yeah.
might want to get into a club from time to time.
Comedy club I got.
So I definitely do yoga now. I do it at least once a week. I definitely try to do some meditation at least once a week where I can, and I try to hit the gym, whether that's with a trainer on Wednesdays when I try to do kickboxing or I hit CrossFit or something. That, to me, kind of helps reduce your pressure and your stress at least a little bit. You're burning literally some of that sweat equity, and that hopefully puts your brain at least in a slightly better place. It's fucking stressful out there.
Yeah.
It's stressful. We're all under stress. There's nowhere to go to get away from that stress. And so I think probably over the last 2 years, I've probably spent more time in understanding the impact that has just on your regular peace of mind.
Yeah, we were just talking to Jordan Long, who does cabinets. It's the same thing. You can't do anything else if you're at the gym. If you're kickboxing, you can't be checking your phone or whatever. It's shitty to do it. Usually, you're pushing yourself. Plus, your mind gets right afterwards because you weren't thinking about all the stress you had before. So
this is actually an intervention law because you're the bad boy I know who brings a phone to every meeting with the laptop that's I'm doing work stuff, but
gotta multitask, man. It's bad. It can get it can be too much for sure.
Well, here's another thing I'll throw
It can
out
be
there.
rude,
So,
frankly.
Yeah. So I took my kids to a concert this weekend. We're we live over in the St. Pete side. I'm at the bridge and I realized, shit, I forgot my cell phone. And my wife was like, well, do we need to turn around? This is an all-day concert, too, by the way. Like, we're there at 2, and we don't leave till 10.
I'm so nervous right now.
I was like,
for
you know
your
what?
Answer.
Let's just not do it. Let's just go.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And I probably couldn't tell you, I know I couldn't tell you the last time that I was away from my cell phone for 8 hours during regular hours.
Was it empowering?
It's great.
Empowered?
I mean, honestly, it was
How many
nice.
phantom grabs did you have for your
Probably
your
a
pocket?
handful. I mean, I had 42
weird,
texts
right?
by the time I got home.
Right.
But
nothing lit on fire.
it's a Sunday too, and it's like, look, we've got
Yeah,
clients that all want to get a hold of us sometimes. I've got several.
You're a workaholic. I've gotten the Sunday
Sure.
text from you, and I'm like, God, this guy's put me to shame. I think I do a lot as far as like following up and all that, and you're on top of it. And Sunday is the day. Try to have one day a weekend where I'm not really like hammering any work.
Yeah.
And I try to do in my schedule when I pick up my kids every day, that until about 8 or 9.
Yeah.
I try not to open the laptop, really look at my phone too much.
Sure.
I'm not answering any emails or texts or anything. Trying to be present.
I mean, you're acting like you're being brave, but they don't let you do that shit anyway.
They want to use it. Anyway, to play games
because you can't.
I still got podcasts in. I'm still listening to something while doing the mundane, but
the word present that you just used, though, I think is an important one because, again, it's one of those things where, as I'm pulling up into this concert, as my kids are going to run off, and it's just going to be my wife and I for a little while and maybe some friends. I'm like, shit, I won't be able to check my this. Or when there's between concerts, I'm going to have to talk to people. But you're present, You're not taking a bunch of pictures of a concert that nobody really gives a shit that you were at anyway. And you just enjoy the quiet and the peace a little bit here and there.
Yeah, I do value being
Take that tip.
The old man sitting on a porch kind of thinking about shit. Like that's gone. I used to do that.
Yeah, you got to force yourself to do it.
Did you notice that he looked at me though when he said that old man?
Old man.
Thing? I mean, it was
Someone's
kind of
sensitive.
like, yeah, it's kind of rude.
I
but
don't like
triggered.
I'm going to stay
triggered.
present. I'm going to stay present for the next. Oh, is that my cell phone? Oh shit, guys, I got to go. I so deeply apologize.
I don't think that's a
That
smartwatch.
clock went very fast.
Well, that's what we say about the podcast. I mean, it's one of the few times per week that we have to sit here and pay attention to what's happening with the people next to us, and we have a conversation, and we're not playing on our phones.
We can all feel buzzes on our phones and the watch and all that stuff.
You could just
going
walk in and feel that.
that's
for sure.
That's
Yeah.
energy. That's
You could just
sexual
walk in and
energy.
feel
I don't
that
know what
energy.
that's about, but it's
Sexual
potent.
tension.
Once again, it's gotten creepy.
But it's gotten sweaty in here.
You do.
But
look
how is the
sweaty.
podcast going, guys?
You tell us.
Yeah, it's good, man.
I mean, obviously, you guys are
It is the
enjoying it.
cathartic. Don't hijack this podcast.
I'm just asking a
interview.
question. Nobody's
I
allowed
see
to
what he's
ask the
doing.
question.
No, you can.
Sly radio guy.
Sly radio guy.
Well, my narcissism will play to that.
Oh, we'll talk about ourselves this whole time.
We're
So you're
doing
enjoying
solo
it.
podcasts to feed those.
Oh, yeah.
And you
underneath
guys
this.
have done a bunch of episodes now.
Uh-huh.
This is number 145.
Yeah,
That's an amazing amount of content.
Not with me.
it's
So
fun.
there's like with the good ones.
He's the
there's
second
like,
Aunt Viv.
Sometimes it's best when you're alone, but sometimes it's nice to have a friend.
You're the better Aunt Viv. from Fresh Prince? Remember when they switched the ants out?
Yeah, they switched her out early.
We tried to act like that wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or on Family Matters when they got rid of the middle child completely.
What?
And they made a joke about it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, you're upstairs for a long time.
Ask us
Don't
about
you
U.S.
feel
history.
stupid?
We got nothing.
You're
but
there.
90s sitcom,
You're all
really
in.
nuanced shit like that. We got it.
So you guys are building out tons of content. Do you ever feel like as you're building out this content, and I know, Law, you and I talked about this the other day, like, what do the downloads look like? How are you feeling about that? How close are you kind of keeping on that at the same time, realizing, look, we're just putting out good content, and whether it's consumed by 5 people or 50 people, I'd rather be doing this, helping, right, than putting together one sheet of a proposal, like here's the shit I'm trying to sell you today, and just take that.
Or a blog post that may never, it's too hard to kind of write down everything.
Yeah, it's still a huge passion project, really. I mean,
I think when you came on, I was like, look, just picture 10 people in a room listening to you, like, intently, right? Not interrupting you. You're talking, or people listening. Think about that. Like, there's 3 of us sitting here, but imagine if there's 12 people to the side.
Sure.
Just, like, listening to us in a panel with no microphones.
Yeah.
It's pretty sweet. Like, it's pretty cool. And that's what I really love about the medium is it's intimate. It's in your ear. The difference between radio and podcast is like it's right in your earbud.
It's honest.
Yeah.
It's hard to fake it.
Yeah, and you're usually doing it while doing the mundane things.
Well, I've got to at least give a shout out to one of the girls in my office. Her name's Amal. I used to do a traditional terrestrial radio show a few years ago. That was a marketing radio show in this market called The Mark. And it was fun. It was fun. We did it, for a little while. We tried to get guests in whenever we could, but it was very Tampa focused. Again, this was 5 or 6 years ago. Things have changed amazingly, obviously, since that time. And she was the one that just came back and just said, "Look, you should jump back in. You should do a podcast. You should do something." And I was like, "Amal, I don't have the time."
She was the one?
She was it. That was it.
Wait, she was the one that was like, "You should do a podcast."
She was the one. Well, I'm not saying you didn't.
Oh, I'm taking full credit.
I'm not saying you weren't helpful in adding some elements to allow it to continue to go down that road. But I am telling you, she's the one that said, this podcast you should listen to. This is something that you should do.
I'm totally fine.
And it's been great. I think people get into doing podcasts for different reasons. Certainly you might do it because there's a vanity element to it. You like talking to my friends. You like having guests, right? Mm-hmm. There's other elements for some people because they feel like they might be able to make money. Like they might literally be able to get enough of a following that they can sell advertising and somehow generate revenue.
Yep.
And right now in that space, in that social space, which I'll almost include podcasting in that element, if you are not an attractive blonde and you're mid-20s, it's hard to pull followers in, right?
Yeah. Or a recognized name.
That's right.
Bringing in the audience.
So you have to figure out the reasons why you're doing it. For me, it was a chance to talk to some people that maybe I've been chasing a little bit. I had to figure out what do I want this podcast to be. I don't need to make money from it, but if I can have a voice, if I can reach out to most of the companies that I have an investment in, our targets are chief marketing officers. We're looking for mid-sized to major company chief marketing officers or chief digital officers who are figuring out how to navigate this space. And the space I'm in is pretty fucking scary right now because it's changing so fast.
It's a great inroad.
Yeah.
It's a great reason to call them, and you get to play into their ego.
Exactly.
Oh, you should come on. It's great. That's
well, and everybody needs a voice. It used to be that the tenure for a chief marketing officer was 3 years, and now it's like 2. So their lifespan is shrinking, and they all need to build their own personal brand.
Running back.
It's crazy. So we had some people on our show already this year that are people. I had one guy that I've been chasing literally for 9 years. I've probably sent this guy 100 different things, like let's do a call, let's do this.
Right.
Nothing, or maybe one email, like I might, and then didn't make that. I sent him an email like, hey, I'm doing this podcast. Luckily, we've got some friends that are executives at big companies that I've now grown friendship with over those years, who were easy asks, but to be able to drop those names and say, hey, this is something that we're doing. 5 or 6 immediately. Like, yeah, I'll do it. We just got a yes from the chief marketing officer for Burger King, a great dude that's down in Miami that I have been stalking on LinkedIn for a little while, that if I wasn't doing the podcast and I'm trying to figure out how do I get this guy to even talk to me, I got nothing.
Two things. I'd be remiss if I didn't do a plug for your podcast, the CMO Suite, and that is on everything you can get a podcast on, right?
Trying to, yeah. Well, whatever you tell me is the next new thing that we're not on yet. We're getting there.
Yeah. Well, it's nice now that we're sharing notes via text about what you're doing,
Sure.
as you're getting it going, and you find out stuff that I don't know about already. So that it's good because there's not a lot of we don't have a knowledge-based group of podcasters really, and
I know. I feel like we're building it.
Yeah, and we want to make it interactive. That's my thing. The next level is to have an interactive show with people who are watching that can be piped in to ask a question, almost like PTI with the kind of
sidebar.
Yeah, telecommunicating,
sort of thing.
so someone could swipe in.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Well, to try to pull it back to what you guys are doing here, right, from a sweat equity standpoint and talking to different business owners, and I don't want them to feel like they're now 10, 15 minutes into this and they're probably like, shit, are we going to be talking about podcasts for the next 15 minutes? Somebody help me with a marketing initiative. I wanted to make the point that
this is why he's a pro. Yeah.
When
Look,
you said to me, Law, like, hey, I can help you with some podcast stuff. I came from radio. I did 20 years in radio. I've done shows. I've been on shows. Sometimes when you're an older guy, you might feel like, what the hell could you teach me that I don't already know?
Right.
And we have to be careful to not do that. We have to be careful to check our own vanity of a guy who I only kind of know who's like, yeah, I could probably teach you some stuff, and me going, who the fuck are you to teach me stuff?
Right.
I teach you. It doesn't work the other way.
Right.
If you're not careful and you don't check that vanity, you miss an opportunity. And the older that you get, the more you've been in this, the more that you feel like you're a leader, not a follower. If you're not careful, you're going to miss a good chance. And so for us, I think that was a good chance for me to check my ego a little bit at the door, to at least let you know, hey, man, I know some stuff about this.
Yeah.
But at the same time, also be willing to say, there's probably also some stuff that you can teach me along the way.
I think there is the EQ part of me. I think you're a high EQ guy.
So you always use these acronyms.
Yeah, nobody knows what the hell he's
You
talking
got
about.
IQ,
Equity quotient, extremely qualified.
Emotional intelligence. Your emotional intelligence is high.
Where's the Q part of emotional intelligence?
Quotient.
I'm not sure. Oh, quotient.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
could you spell that? Never mind. It's okay.
Hell no. But
Can't believe this guy's single.
I know you as a
Can't believe he's
manager.
single.
You are very. You're very
We're not.
personable as a manager. You're very You're not my.
You didn't work with me long enough. That's what your perception is.
No, you're not a micromanager, but you are in the zone. Like there's some people that are just bottom line guys, right? Like at the end of the day, we have to be bottom line. But I'm saying like you know what everybody's doing pretty much at all times. That was what was interesting about watching you as a manager. I think you have a high EQ. This is a compliment, by the way. That sounds like I'm roasting you. I don't know why, but I'm saying like I felt that you. I felt your
sweat equity's coming.
I felt
that
that
on
you
purpose.
had more to say, and this would be the medium and time efficient way to do it. And then I was like, I got to keep ribbing them to do it. Because if we do this correctly, this can go on audio, video, and then if we're getting even better about the post-production, we can clip it into ads. We can clip it out and get a lot of content out of just a 35-minute episode.
Well, and so then let's, again, bringing it back to a lot of the people that it seems like you guys are targeting, they may not have these resources, right? They may not have the ability, when you send me a text like, oh, you need another Mevo 4K camera, and I'm like, just send me the link,
need any of
right?
that. Well, yeah.
I think the beauty of even listening to a show like this, or the beauty of even listening to any of the episodes that you guys have done, is you can start with whatever you want to start with.
Yep.
Is it cool to be on a podcast? Of course. Is it still okay to write a blog? I get a lot of ribbing sometimes for how much content I push on LinkedIn. I mean, people are, I do get buddies of mine that are like, do you really need to post 10 times a day? You're killing my feed.
Yes, you're doing it wrong.
But it's pretty interesting how many clients, even what I would call almost old school clients of mine that are slower at adapting to what is this new world environment, who listen. I had a girl the other day who I don't even know that was like, oh, hey, you're Sean Halter. I'm like, yeah. She's like, oh, I listened to that podcast. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Push out whatever you can.
Yeah.
Take out whatever content you can and make it your own, even if you're talking to 5 people.
Right. Well, it's like you have a Zoom H4n handheld recorder for audio.
Law told me to buy it. I still don't know what to do with it.
Well,
yet, but yeah.
the point is that
shove it up your ass.
you can do
like
a
I'm his
podcast
old
with
rich uncle.
just that,
Yeah.
or your phone. Like I
Yeah.
mean,
Sure.
Joe Rogan will sit on an airplane. He's Joe Rogan, so he
Yeah.
can get away with it. But like, if you're bringing good content, people let you get away with it, sort of thing.
Well, that's a great point, because I was on LinkedIn the other day, which I'm always on. That's my social medium of choice, by the way. Sean Halter, type me into LinkedIn, or just type in SeanHalter.com. That'll take you straight to my LinkedIn page. I'm going to throw that little bit of a plug out there.
All right.
If you want me to follow you, you can send me an invitation. All I ask is that you subscribe to my podcast. That's also a true fact. Anybody that I don't know that requests me now, I ask them to subscribe to my podcast, and if they don't, I will unfollow them. So your point with the phone on the plane, though, is funny, because I saw something on LinkedIn the other day. It was I almost said kid, but it was somebody in their 20s. They happened to be flying first class, and they were next to like the CMO for Chick-fil-A or the CEO of some major company, and literally on the flight, he's busting out a video podcast, and I was like, oh, no, that's
guy,
fucking
he's
clever.
He's going to make it.
That's clever.
That guy's got
right?
he's got the
and
gumption.
great content.
Yeah, I mean, if he's doing that.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
You're flying first class next to me. Do you mind if I take 15 minutes of this flight and ask you some questions?
How many times has that happened to that guy?
Crazy.
0. I'm
Yeah,
sure he's like,
crazy.
okay.
And in my experience, a lot of people at that level really love being able to give advice. Like they love.
Sure.
It's weird. Some people are scared to ask a lot of the time, and I feel like it's a thing we kind of make up to be. Oh, I don't want to be rude or something like that. It's like, no, man. Like if you have fucking nuggets to shell out, a lot of older guys like Sean, really old dudes.
See where he goes.
Geriatric guys, they love
It's also
being that kind of Methuselah, giving out.
You guys get to use salty language on this show, and so because my show also airs on terrestrial as well,
like butt pussy.
I literally have to be very, very careful about what I say. I said shit the other day, and literally, like, the producer was like, "Yeah, we're not allowed to use that." I was like, "Oh, that's right."
I don't know if you've done this before.
Maybe once or twice, but there's still 7 deadly words you're not allowed to use or whatever.
I mean, we were just talking about this before you came in the office. That we have a fine line of, because our comedy background too is like we always want to keep it authentic.
See,
right?
I don't see you as a comedian. I don't find you really very funny. Which is,
that's fine.
I thought maybe again you guys were like an Abbott and Costello kind of thing, but the thin guy's
timely
the
reference.
funny one, and
timely
then
reference.
the
So it
hippie
turns
dude
out we
is
have
the not as funny one.
no funnies.
We're both esoteric and not funny. No.
What is funny is the
Very
picture. I
meta.
don't know if Law's picture actually comes up in the video portion of the podcast. If anybody sees the look on his face,
That's my deadlift face.
but
or
who's under
another
the
face.
table?
I
don't know what his name
he
was.
doing
An
some
intern
sort
we
of
can't talk
song.
about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clearly you were an HR problem, which is why you're
Yeah.
running your own company.
Well,
now.
I'm in charge of the photoshopping, so I'm always making them look stupid.
Well,
That's
an
how we
easy
do.
job.
If
That's
you
probably
notice
an
the
easy job.
thumbnails, I always look good, cool. I look like I'm hilarious. He's always laughing
Yeah,
at me.
you look like you just smelled a fart.
Not that one, actually.
And
That's
just
not a
came
good
from a
one.
clan
But
meeting.
You've come a long way, though.
Normal.
You've come a long way.
Long way, baby. Reinvesting in yourself. I mean, the podcast is that, in a way. Like we do say, for shorthand, we do say it's therapy. It's cathartic to get this stuff out. I'm not doing stand-up as much, so that was an outlet to bitch about stuff or like to cope with something I'm trying to figure out.
What do people tell you about the podcast? Like, what feedback are you guys getting on it?
Well, in the same kind of light you were saying, like people do see it and they may not engage with it online, but I get a lot of stuff like, "Hey man, I saw that stuff popping up on the, I've been listening, it was pretty good," and you're like, "You've been listening?
Are you going to the country cracker store? What are we doing over there?"
I got country friends, man.
We got hunting.
Auburn.
We got some hunters over here.
I get a lot of the secondhand where it's like, "Hey, they told me you were listening to the podcast." I'm like, "I just saw that person yesterday and mentioned the podcast in my face. Like, tell me that. I need to hear it." I mean, come on.
No, my oldest
It drives me
sister
crazy.
started listening, which is cool, really cool, because she's like, sometimes we live within 5 miles of each other, but we don't get to see each other as much. So it's a way of her
They don't
checking
invite
in
you
on
over?
me. Yeah, well,
I understand.
You got it's an asynchronistic way to keep in with the family.
Yeah. Well, I mean, anybody can check in on you.
Yeah,
They can hear that we're alive,
but
somewhat happy.
it has started more cooler conversations about other things,
Sure.
like motivation and stuff like that. So,
Well, I'm proud of you.
there's so
boys.
many
proud
there's
of
so
you.
much to get out of this.
It's
right?
hard to put a finger on it, really. It's like we know we should keep on and do good and all that stuff without a definitive.
Well, there's a sweet spot, right?
You
If
know?
we go too far and try to make this commercialized, it's going to lose authenticity, and we'll hate ourselves for doing that.
Yeah.
At the same time, we can't just do exactly what we want to do. There needs to be a show, right? We need to act as if we are trying to do a show, not too cool to do a real show.
And again, I feel like with anything, figure out what the purpose is, right? We decided we were going to do, somewhere between 12 and 15 episodes as kind of a season 1.
Mm-hmm.
And it had been a little while, a few years, as I said, since I had done one. So we made the interviews really short. We made them like 8 to 10 minutes each, and then we kind of combined a few of them together to make episodes. We've gotten different feedback. Some people that are like, oh, this is great. It's like literally 10 minutes. I can hit the highlights of this guy or this girl who I've been wanting to hear how they get their start, right? Or what's one or two great pieces of advice, little pieces I can take away because I'm pressed for time. I don't have an hour.
Right.
Others are like, I like the longer episodes that you've done. So we'll see what next year looks like.
The weird thing about podcasting is that to broaden your audience, you want to talk about as much stuff as possible. But in reality is the more specialized you are with this stuff, the more likely you are to, unless there's somebody already doing it better, to get a decent following,
Sure.
and a legit, interested following.
I think it's like any other form of marketing, right? The more precise you are in knowing I'm going to invest some of my time.
Right.
I mean, again, think of this. Who knows how many people will have literally sat through this 20, 25-minute conversation that we've had. But if there's 5 or 10 or 15 people who've done so, who've taken one piece of something away, whether it's the fact that, Sean's right. I need to not think that yoga is something pansy, that it's maybe a way to actually help my life, or that some people.
By the way, I'm all about the yoga. That's good.
Yeah,
You gotta,
I'm with you on the cinnamon.
Some
that
people
should
that
be at the top of your list.
That Law
Stay
was maybe
loose.
funny, and now they realize that he's not.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever you can take away from this.
He's a comedian? Yeah, and the other thing about it is it's kind of cool to have this documented path of no matter what, I'll have these audio files for my kids if they won't listen to it. But
Yeah.
I'm saying it
Thanks,
is cool
Dad.
that there is a time capsule of sorts of what's going on,
Sure. Home movies, your version of those when you
We
weren't
got a
with
lot.
them.
Yeah, because I watched them all the time.
There you go.
Growing up. Where are we on time?
All right.
I mean, it's
What does "we're all right" mean? Does "we're all right"
I don't
mean
like
you
to.
got,
I
two
don't like to
minutes?
set the
Relax,
theme.
buddy.
I got.
I got shit to do.
I
I mean,
know.
this half an hour is like, oh
I
my
know.
God, I
We-
got to go back. I got 2
Jeez,
back-to-back
pulling teeth.
meetings.
we
Let's make 'em
shoehorned you
stay.
in. I'm so glad.
We're not going to turn it off. You have to get up
No
and walk
shit.
out on your own.
What's the
Well,
We'll
remember
just
it's
keep
on
on.
video, so I don't want to be that guy that's like, yeah, okay.
I know. That's why we're going to make you do it.
what is the best advice? So
Don't
this,
do this podcast.
this.
Don't.
Whoa!
Don't come see Law
Lightning
at
fast.
2:30.
I can edit that
So
shit
That's
out.
a good point.
Yeah, this. So this show really was I'm a vessel to pass on information
Vessel.
from
He's just
smarter.
busting out all the
Called
smart
himself
words.
a muse in the last
I heard
episode.
that. I was like, really, dude? Your hair's like that
I
length,
paint
but
a
come
picture
on.
with my words.
I can't
fellas.
imagine you're anybody's muse, but
El-
okay.
Eloquent illustrations.
Yes.
But
You were asking about a piece of advice.
this show is really I just tell people, look, I'm a C+ student growing up. When I got in business classes, it all clicked. But as far as me giving advice to 6-year-old CEOs and stuff,
Did he say 60-year-olds? Okay.
yeah, or 16, whatever.
Sure.
I tell people this isn't my theory, right? I didn't make this stuff up. This is something I heard from someone way smarter than I am. I'm very good at going, that's interesting. I'm going to write that down. I'm going to pass it along.
Yeah, my advice to a 60-year-old CEO is get out. Get out while you still have your health.
Yeah.
Figure out
Before
a
you go to
plan of
jail.
action.
Well,
Try to
right?
be a CEO and not be a criminal.
I don't know.
I think well, I mean, you get the
big
we look
CEO.
we look for the blue hairs sometimes
Sure.
because that they usually have the disposable income as a business.
Sure.
To really even entertain our meetings sometimes. But
So is the question, what's one good piece of advice?
yeah, what's the best piece of advice you've received probably in the last year, other than me telling you to do a podcast?
Well, it
And
wasn't
go.
you, but you were like, I can do that
And
too, dude.
Me telling you it's amazing.
It's a good idea. I'd say, again, probably the one best piece of advice to me is probably, again, invest in yourself. Whatever that means to you, whether it's the yoga piece that we talked about or your own personal stuff. I think it's so hard to run a company and remember that you yourself are important, or at least from my perspective. I'm sure there's plenty of CEOs that are so narcissistic that they're like, I don't care about my wife or my girlfriend or my wife and my girlfriend or my
Right.
kids or any of that stuff. For people that are driven like me, for people who are takers but also givers, who want the employees that they have, whatever size that company is, to benefit from what they're doing, I think you have to remember to invest in yourself. You also have to remember
EQ. Mhm.
Yeah. You have to remember to do whatever the job is that needs to be done. I take the garbage out of my office all the time
Yep.
because there should
I like
never
that.
be a task that I am
That you're too good
unwilling
for.
to do.
I love that in a boss. I love seeing it in my bosses that I had.
Doesn't
one,
mean you guys can't take
Scrub
out the
the
garbage from
toilets.
time to time.
I had
but
one that
yeah.
would get on his hands and knees and be like, "Why is this not level?"
I don't
you
know where he's going with that, but once again, whatever
Whoa,
your bosses
whoa.
we're doing as
You're
we wrap
taking
this
it there,
show, I don't
But
know.
if you want to go GIMP, we'll go GIMP.
I think we'll pass.
No, but I'm saying like lead by doing is huge.
Yeah.
Reinvest in yourself without being super indulgent. I think the younger kids may do too much investing in themselves.
Here comes the end music. I love it.
Yeah. Slowly.
Men without hats.
It's like playing you off at a award show. Just let you know.
It's a long song. We can keep talking.
It's all good.
I think that reinvesting in yourself and knowing what's working for you too. Some people go, well, I need to do this in my schedule, and they don't really look, is that actually helping you?
Well, keep doing what you guys are doing. I'm very proud of both of you, and appreciate all of the additional assistance law that you've given to us. I hope a lot of people listen through not just this one, but every piece that's out there. Find the time.
And we'll link out to your podcast, the CMO Suite.
The CMOsuite.com. Looks fantastic, by the way. It's got my beautiful picture up there. Law's like, put your picture on there. I'm like, give me a minute.
Yeah, put that mug on there.
He thinks I have unlimited resources.
You
Any
got
idea
manpower.
he comes up with, he tries to make me do first.
You got a whole little Chinese factory of workers
Once
in there.
again, careful. They
It's
all
like
have their green cards.
It's like Foxconn in there.
Most of them do.
The tiny little hands.
Taiwanese? Or
Yeah, could be.
I do not agree with
Laotian.
many of the statements
They make
said
clothes too in there. It's
on
Indonesian.
this podcast. Where are the female people for your podcast, by the way? You really need a female co-host, I feel like.
No, we don't.
There's a lot of...
We don't need any
We're
more.
both pretty sensitive males,
Okay,
so
I want it to be even. I want it to be fair.
we're lady men.
Yeah,
Hashtag me as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, the women will come. We've got some female CEOs on the docket
Great.
coming up.
Congratulations.
Shout out to Fran Biederman Gross,
Thanks, guys.
my homie in Queens.
Thank you.
See ya.
SweatEquityPod.com. Check it out.